Gate C-17, cream coat, silver hair. Nobody stopped. Not one damn person. Warren cursed under his breath, late as hell, flight boarding any minute. But that woman, something in the frantic way her hands moved, the desperate hope in her eyes. He knew that look. Piper wore it often enough. 11 minutes. That's all he had. Screw it. He turned. See, what they didn't know, what those hurried travelers couldn't possibly fathom, was that Warren knew her language, knew the silent screams trapped in her elegant gestures. They saw a ghost. He saw a mother. And that quiet act of translation, it was about to turn Warren's whole world upside down. Compassion can be a bitch like that. Gate C-17, cream coat, silver hair. Nobody stopped. Not one damn person. Warren cursed under his breath, late as hell, flight boarding any minute. But that woman, something in the frantic way her hands moved, the desperate hope in her eyes. He knew that look. Piper wore it often enough. 11 minutes. That's all he had. Screw it. He turned. See, what they didn't know, what those hurried travelers couldn't possibly fathom, was that Warren knew her language, knew the silent screams trapped in her elegant gestures. They saw a ghost. He saw a mother. In that quiet act of translation, it was about to turn Warren's whole world upside down. Compassion can be a bitch like that. Terminal C throbbed with a chaotic energy that mirrored the frantic beat of Warren's own heart. He shoved through the throng, his roller bag bumping against hurried legs and distracted briefcases. San Francisco had been a bust. 3 days of politely smiling investors with empty promises. He glanced at his phone. 4:47 p.m. Boarding in 12. Piper's face flashed in his mind, her small, serious face as she pinky swore him to be home for mac and cheese night. Promise, Daddy, mac and cheese night. He had to make that flight. The air hung thick with the aroma of stale coffee and desperation. A businessman glued to his phone, nearly clotheslined Warren. No apologies. Just a grunt and a swerve back into the river of anonymous faces. Everyone was trapped in their own little world, a bubble of self-importance floating through the terminal. Then he saw her. She sat alone near gate C-17, a splash of cream against the gray landscape of the terminal. Her silver hair, meticulously styled, hinted at a life of privilege, but the frantic darting of her eyes screamed otherwise. Confusion warred with a mounting, desperate panic. The crowds flowed around her like water around a rock. Her hands danced, a silent plea lost in the din. Precise, elegant gestures that Warren instantly recognized. American Sign Language. She was begging for help, but nobody noticed. Or worse, they noticed and didn't care. A young woman in leggings, earbuds blasting, scrolled mindlessly past. A family, overloaded with luggage, barreled by without a flicker of acknowledgement. Even a harried gate agent, clipboard clutched like a lifeline, hurried past, blind to the silent drama unfolding just feet away. Warren's steps faltered. He should keep moving. Gate A3 was on the opposite side of the terminal. 11 minutes. Missing this flight meant missing his promise to Piper. Missing that night. The elderly woman's hands moved again, faster, more urgent. A silent scream etched on her face. Her eyes, wide and pleading, scanned the uncaring faces, searching for what? Recognition? Understanding? Warren stopped. Damn it. He turned, his internal debate dying an unceremonious death. He walked toward her, slowing as he approached, careful not to frighten her further. Close enough now. He dropped his bag with a soft thud, took a breath, and signed clearly, his hands steady and deliberate. Hello, I see you need help. I can assist you. The effect was instantaneous, almost violent. The tension visibly drained from her face, replaced by a wave of pure, unadulterated relief. Her eyes, moments before pools of despair, now overflowed with tears. Her hands flew up, a flurry of signs tumbling over each other in her haste to communicate. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I thought no one understood. My flight, they changed the gate. I heard the announcement, but I don't. I can't. Warren lowered himself to the seat beside her, the boarding call for his own flight a distant, irrelevant echo. He signed slowly, calmly, trying to project an aura of reassurance. It's okay. Breathe. I'm here. My name is Warren. He paused, offering her space to respond. What's your name? Beatrice, she signed, her hands trembling slightly. Beatrice Fenwick. I'm trying to get to Boston. My daughter was supposed to meet me, but her phone isn't working, and they changed the gate, and I don't understand where I'm supposed to go, and everyone just keeps... Her hands faltered, falling into her lap. Warren saw something break in her expression. That particular kind of exhaustion that comes from feeling utterly, hopelessly invisible. Everyone just keeps walking past, Warren signed gently, finishing her thought. He knew that expression. He'd seen it reflected too many times in Piper's eyes. She nodded, a tear tracing a path through the lines etched on her face. Warren felt a familiar pang in his chest. 3 years ago, his wife had declared Piper a burden and walked out, leaving Warren alone to navigate a world that wasn't built for silence. He had become Piper's interpreter, her champion. He'd thrown himself into learning ASL, devouring YouTube tutorials and attending workshops, immersing himself in deaf culture. He had learned that silence wasn't a void. It was a language, a community, a different way of experiencing the world. He'd also learned firsthand how easily the hearing world dismissed those who didn't speak its language. Beatrix, Warren signed, pulling himself back to the present. Let me help you. Tell me about your flight. She wiped her eyes, composing herself with an effort. Boston, Flight 2847. It was supposed to leave from this gate, C-17, but they made an announcement and changed it. I couldn't hear it clearly. I tried to ask someone. She gestured helplessly at the passing crowds. Warren pulled out his phone and tapped a few keys. Okay, I found it. They moved it to gate B-22. Boarding time was moved up. They're actually boarding now. Beatrice's face paled. Now? But that's... How will I... I'll take you there, Warren signed firmly. Come on, we'll make it. He helped her gather her belongings, a worn leather carry-on, a designer purse that looked heavy with unseen anxieties, and the cream coat that had slipped unnoticed to the side of the seat. Taking her elbow gently, he steered her through the human obstacle course, one hand guiding her, the other ready to translate. How long have you been sitting there? He asked as they hurried along. Almost 30 minutes, she signed back, her movements still a little shaky. I kept hoping my daughter would call back, or that someone would notice I needed help. But everyone was so busy. I felt like a ghost. You're not a ghost, Warren signed, his voice firm. You're here. You're real, and you deserve to be seen. They reached a moving walkway and stepped aboard. Beatrice's hands were shaking less now, her breathing steadier. She looked at Warren, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. Why do you know sign language? She signed. If you don't mind me asking. Warren's throat tightened. I have a daughter, Piper. She's 6. She was born deaf. Understanding dawned on Beatrice's face, followed by something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or kinship. Then you know, she signed softly. You know what it's like to be treated like you're not quite there. I've seen it happen to her, Warren signed, his jaw clenching. She's the most amazing kid I've ever known. Smart, funny, creative. She sees the world in ways that make me wish I could see it too. But people look right through her, like her silence makes her less, like she's background noise in a hearing world. They stepped off the moving walkway and turned down another corridor. Gate B-22 was visible in the distance now, and Warren could see the line of passengers already queued for boarding. You're a good father, Beatrix signed, her eyes soft. I try to be. I just wish more people understood that silence isn't emptiness. It's not absence. It speaks volumes if you bother to listen. They reached gate B-22 just as the gate agent announced the final boarding call. Warren checked Beatrix's boarding pass, confirmed she was in the right place. Thank you, Beatrix signed, grasping both his hands in hers. Thank you for seeing me, for stopping. Most people, her voice, if you could call signed words a voice, broke. Most people look right through me, like I'm furniture, like I'm nothing. You're not nothing, Warren signed fiercely, squeezing her hands. You're someone's mother, someone's friend, someone who matters. Don't let the world's cruelty make you forget that. Beatrice nodded, then reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. She pressed it into his palm with both hands, her gaze intense. Warren glanced down. Elegant embossed lettering. Beatrix Fenwick, mother of Elise Fenwick, CEO, Fenwick and Crane Architectural Design Firm. His breath hitched. Fenwick and Crane. He knew that name. Every architect on the West Coast knew that name. One of the most prestigious firms in the country, known for innovative designs and impeccable aesthetics. He looked up, shocked, but Beatrix was already signing again. My daughter? She needs to know about this. About you. Please call her. Tell her you helped me. She'll want to thank you properly. Beatrix, I don't need... Please, she interrupted, her hands emphatic. For me, she'll want to know. She paused, her expression turning thoughtful. My daughter, she understands what it means to see people. She grew up with a deaf mother. She built her entire company around the idea that the world should be built for everyone, not just the majority. The gate agent called Beatrice boarding group. She squeezed Warren's hand one last time, signed, "Thank you," with a depth of emotion that transcended language, and disappeared down the jetway. Warren stood there, the business card cool against his palm, as his own final boarding call crackled over the intercom. He ran. He barely made the flight, collapsing into his seat as the flight attendants were securing the cabin. Adrenaline coursed through his veins and he stared at the business card, feeling its weight in his hand. Elise Fenwick, CEO of Fenwick and Crane. The 2-hour flight home was a blur of turbulent thoughts. He'd helped an elderly woman find her gate, a simple act of basic human decency that should have been unremarkable. And now he had a direct line to architectural royalty. But it wasn't the potential career boost that gnawed at him. It was Beatrice's words, the hollowness in her eyes when she signed, "Everyone just keeps walking past." That resignation, that specific pain of invisibility, not because you weren't there, but because people chose not to see you. He thought of Piper, of the time they'd been at the grocery store and she'd signed a polite question to a clerk, only to have the clerk look through her, addressing Warren as if Piper were an inanimate object. The white-hot rage he'd felt in that moment, swallowing it down for Piper's sake. So she wouldn't see the world through his anger. So she wouldn't internalize the world's dismissiveness. But his daughter had felt it. He had seen it in her drooped shoulders. 30,000 feet above the ground, Warren stared at the business card and made a decision. He would call Elise Fenwick. Not because he was angling for a job, although God knew his firm needed the business, but because Beatrice had asked him to, because she'd seen something in their brief connection that mattered, and because maybe, just maybe, there were more people in the world who truly understood what it meant to see someone. 3 days later, his phone rang with a Boston area code. Warren was at his drafting table, wrestling with a design that stubbornly refused to come to life, the details blurring into a mess of mediocrity. The call vibrated against the table. He almost ignored it, dismissing it as a telemarketer or another polite rejection. But something, a flicker of instinct, a whisper of curiosity, made him reach for it. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Elise Fenwick. I believe you helped my mother at the Seattle airport." Something in Warren's chest loosened. "Thank you for inviting me," he signed back, then added verbally, "Your office is beautiful, thank you. We designed it ourselves." Obviously, she grinned. "Can I get you coffee?" "Water. Coffee would be great." They settled in a conference room with a view of the harbor, and what was supposed to be a 1-hour meeting stretched into 3. Elise spread architectural plans across the table. Initial concepts for the community center. "Here's what we have so far," she said, speaking and signing simultaneously with unconscious ease. "But I'm not satisfied with it. It's good, but something in Warren's chest loosened. "Thank you for inviting me," he signed back, then added verbally, "Your office is beautiful. Thank you. We designed it ourselves." Obviously, she grinned. "Can I get you coffee?" "Water. Coffee would be great." They settled in a conference room with a view of the harbor, and what was supposed to be a 1-hour meeting stretched into 3. Elise spread architectural plans across the table. Initial concepts for the community center. "Here's what we have so far," she said, speaking and signing simultaneously with unconscious ease. But I'm not satisfied with it. It's good, but it's not right. Warren studied the plans. They were good, excellent even. Clean lines, smart use of space, all the technical accessibility requirements met. But Elise was right. Something was missing. Can I? He asked, gesturing to a pencil. Please. For the next hour, they worked together. Warren sketching modifications, Elise adding her own ideas, both of them falling into an easy collaboration that felt less like a job interview and more like two people who spoke the same language discovering they could create poetry together. Here, Warren said, pointing to the main gathering space, this is designed for hearing people with deaf accommodations added. But what if we flipped it? What if we designed it from the beginning for ASL conversation? What do you mean? Sign language requires sight lines. If you can't see someone's hands, you can't understand them. So gathering spaces for deaf communities need different configurations, circular or semicircular seating instead of rows. Different lighting, bright enough to see signs clearly, but not harsh. No backlighting that creates silhouettes. And color contrast on the walls so hands are always visible against the background. Elise leaned forward, her eyes bright. Keep going. And sound dampening doesn't matter the same way. So we can use that budget elsewhere. Maybe tactile elements, different textures that provide information. Visual alerts instead of audio ones, but integrated into the design beautifully, not just stuck on as an afterthought. The whole building should say, "You belong here," instead of, "We made room for you." Yes, Elise breathed. That's what I've been trying to articulate, but couldn't figure out how to achieve. They looked at each other across the table, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, the peculiar intimacy of being understood by someone who truly gets it. Most hearing architects, Elise signed, switching fully to ASL. Design for hearing people, and then modify for others. They treat accessibility like a checklist, a box to tick. But I want to create spaces that start from a different premise, that understand silence isn't emptiness. It's just a different way of being full. Warren felt something catch in his throat. Those were almost the exact words he'd used with Beatrice at the airport. That's what I've been trying to do, he signed back. When I design now, I think about how Piper experiences space, what she needs, what would make her feel not just accommodated, but celebrated. Tell me about her, Elise said gently. So he did. He told her about Piper's diagnosis at 6 months old, about his wife leaving unable to handle what she saw as a burden, the YouTube videos he'd watched to learn how to braid hair, the gluten-free recipes he'd mastered for her celiac disease, the 3 fears that he wasn't enough. And he told her about the victories, about the first time Piper signed, "I love you, Daddy," completely unprompted, about her starting at a deaf school and thriving. About the way she saw beauty in things he'd never noticed, the pattern of rain on windows, the way tree shadows moved, the whole visual poetry of a world she experienced without sound. She sounds extraordinary, Elise signed. She is, Warren replied simply. Elise was quiet for a moment. Then my mother is extraordinary too, but she spent her whole life fighting to be seen. I built this company because I was tired of watching her have to fight. I wanted to create spaces where people like her, people like your Piper, didn't have to fight to exist, where the world was built for them from the beginning. That's beautiful, Warren said. It's business, Elise replied with a slight smile. Accessible design is good design. It benefits everyone. But yes, it's also personal. Everything I build is for my mother. Everything. They talked until the sun started setting over the harbor, painting the water in shades of orange and gold. They talked about design philosophy and childhood memories, about the deaf community and the ways the hearing world failed it, about dreams and frustrations, and the persistent hope that change was possible. When Warren finally left, promising to send detailed design revisions within the week, Elise walked him to the elevator. This was supposed to be a consultation, she said, smiling. I think it turned into something else. A collaboration? Warren asked. A partnership, Elise corrected. If you're interested. I'm very interested, Warren said, and meant it in more ways than one. Over the next 3 months, Warren flew to Boston bi-weekly. During those times, Piper stayed with Mrs. Grace, who was not just a neighbor, but was more like a grandmother to Piper and a mother to him. The community center project became his primary focus, and Fennick and Crane paid him better than he'd ever been paid in his life. But money wasn't why he kept coming back. Between meetings, he and Elise talked, long conversations over working dinners, discussions that wandered from architecture to philosophy to personal history. He learned that she'd spent her childhood translating the hearing world for her mother, that she'd chosen architecture specifically because she wanted to design a better world, that she carried the weight of responsibility for her mother's happiness, like Atlas carried the sky. She learned that Warren measured time differently now, not in hours and days, but in small victories. A ponytail braided successfully, a bedtime story that actually ended in sleep, a moment when Piper's face lit up with joy over something simple and perfect. And every few days, Warren would video call Piper from his Boston hotel room, and she'd tell him about her day in rapid signs. And increasingly, Elise would appear in the frame beside him. It started casually, Elise stopping by his hotel to drop off revised plans, staying to say hi to Piper. But it became routine. Piper started asking, "Is Elise there?" before Warren even connected the call. One evening, Elise sent Piper a package. Inside was a custom coloring book, architectural drawings of the community center simplified for a child to color with a note, "Help me design the playground." Piper's response was immediate and emphatic. A series of drawings showing swings and slides and climbing structures, all with sight lines carefully considered, all with visual interest and bright colors. "She's brilliant," Elise signed to Warren during their next meeting. Piper's drawings spread across the conference table. "I'm not. Look, her idea about the circular slide with windows cut into it, that's genius. It creates a visual element for kids watching from outside, while the kid inside gets a fun perspective. We're incorporating it." Warren looked at the drawings at his daughter's careful work being taken seriously by one of the best architectural firms in the country, and felt something in his chest expand almost painfully. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for seeing her." "Thank you for seeing my mother," Elise replied, "for seeing all of us." That night, after a long day of design work, Elise invited Warren to dinner at her home, a brownstone in Back Bay that was somehow both elegant and warm, filled with books and art and the comfortable clutter of real life. Beatrice was there, and when she saw Warren, she signed enthusiastically, "The kind man from the airport. I've heard so much about your work." Over a meal that Beatrice insisted on preparing, Warren watched the two women interact, the easy shorthand of their signs, the way Elise anticipated her mother's needs without hovering, and the obvious deep love between them. It reminded him of his relationship with Piper, and something in his heart recognized home. After dinner, Beatrice excused herself to bed, and Elise led Warren out to a small balcony overlooking the street. "Your mother is wonderful," Warren said. "She is, and she asks about you constantly. When is Warren coming back? Has he finished the playground designs? What does his daughter think of the project?" Elise smiled. "I think you made a profound impression on her, on both of us." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling around them. "Can I tell you something?" Elise asked, her voice softer now. "Of course. After my mother came home from that trip, after she told me what you did, how you stopped, how you saw her, she said something I haven't been able to forget." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the streetlights. "That man sees people, really sees them. I didn't understand what she meant until I met you. Until I watched you talk about Piper and work on these designs and care so deeply about creating spaces where people feel seen." Warren's heart was beating faster now. "I see you too," he said quietly. "I see someone who built an empire on the principle that everyone deserves dignity. Someone who speaks her mother's language as naturally as her own. Someone who understands that accessibility isn't accommodation, it's respect. Warren, I see someone I can't stop thinking about," he continued. "Someone I fly across the country to see every 2 weeks, and it stopped being just about the project a long time ago." Elise stepped closer. "When did it stop being just about the project?" "I think it stopped being just about the project the moment you greeted me in sign language, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore, that there was someone else who understood. The kiss was soft, tentative, full of questions and promises. When they pulled apart, Elise was smiling. "I think," she said, "we should probably tell Piper." Warren laughed. I think Piper already knows. A month later, Warren brought Piper to Boston during her spring break. She was nervous. He could tell by the way her hands fidgeted, signing random words to herself as they walked through the airport. What if she doesn't like me? She signed in the taxi to Elise's office. She already likes you, Warren assured her. You've been video chatting for months. That's different. That's through a screen. What if I'm weird in person? You're not weird. You're extraordinary. Dad, Piper signed with the exasperation only a 6-year-old could muster. Everyone's parent thinks they're extraordinary. When they arrived at Fenwick and Crane, Elise was waiting in the lobby. She crouched down to Piper's level and signed, Hi, Piper. I'm so happy to finally meet you in person. Your playground designs are being built right now. Want to come see? Piper looked at Warren for permission. He nodded. She turned back to Elise and signed shilly. Okay. They spent the afternoon at the construction site, Piper wearing a tiny hard hat that Elise had custom ordered for her, watching his workers build the structures she'd helped design. Every few minutes, Piper would tug on Warren's hand and sign, Dad, look, that's my idea. They're really building it. Later at dinner, Piper sat between Warren and Elise, signing animatedly about her school and her friends and the new book she was reading. Beatrice watched from across the table, her eyes warm, occasionally adding comments that made Piper giggle. As they were leaving, Piper tugged on Elise's sleeve. When Elise looked down, Piper signed carefully. Are you my dad's special friend? Warren felt his face heat, but Elise just smiled and signed back. I'd like to be, if that's okay with you. Piper considered this seriously. Then she signed, Can you be my special friend too? I would love that, Elise replied. Piper nodded, satisfied, then added, Good, because my dad smiles a lot more when he talks about you, and he needs to smile more. Out of the mouths of babes, Warren thought, as Elise reached over and squeezed his hand. 6 months after that November day at the airport, Warren stood in the completed community center with Piper's hand in his, Elise beside him, and Beatrice sitting in the front row. The building was extraordinary, all light and space and thoughtful design. Every element carefully considered for the people who would use it. The main gathering space had the circular configuration they designed with perfect sightlines and beautiful color contrast. The playground, Piper's playground, featured the circular slide with windows, bright colors, and spaces designed for both deaf and hearing children to play together. The dedication ceremony was conducted in both ASL and English, the interpreters working seamlessly, the audience a beautiful mix of deaf and hearing community members, all finding space in a building designed with love. When it was Warren's turn to speak, he stood at the podium and signed. 6 months ago, I was running through an airport late and exhausted when I saw someone who needed help. I almost kept walking. I had every excuse to keep walking, but something made me stop. He paused, looking at Beatrice. That decision to stop, to see someone everyone else was ignoring, changed my life completely. It brought me here, to this building, to this community, to this family. He gestured to Elise and Piper. My daughter taught me that silence speaks volumes, that being deaf isn't a deficit. It's a difference, a beautiful, valuable difference. And she taught me that love is the best teacher, that if you love someone, you learn their language, all of it, the signs and the unspoken parts, the visible and the invisible. Piper signed from her seat. Dad, you're getting mushy, the audience laughed. Those who knew sign language translating for those who didn't. The room filling with shared warmth. The point is, Warren continued, we built this center on a simple principle. Everyone deserves to be seen, to be heard, or in this case, to be seen when they speak with their hands, to belong not as an accommodation, but as the design itself. And I'm grateful to everyone who made this possible, but especially to Beatrice for trusting a stranger at an airport, and to Elise for teaching me that the best love stories are written in languages most people never bother to learn. After the ceremony, as the community explored their new center, Elise squeezed Warren's hand and signed, Thank you for seeing my mother, for seeing all of us. Warren signed back, Thank you for teaching me that the best love stories are written in languages most people never bother to learn. Piper appeared between them, tugging both their hands. She signed, "Can we go see my room?" "Your room?" Elise asked, confused. "The kids' design room? You said I could have a space there whenever we visit Boston." Elise and Warren exchanged a look. Warm, full of understanding, full of promise. "Come on," Elise signed, taking Piper's other hand. "Let's go see your room." As they walked through the center, behind them, Beatrice watching from her seat with tears in her eyes, Warren thought about time, how he used to measure it in small victories, braided ponytails and bedtime stories, how he now measured it differently in the moment he chose to stop in an airport. In the language he'd learned for love, in the spaces they built, not just with blueprints in building materials, but with compassion and understanding and the radical act of truly seeing another human being. The best things in life, Warren had learned, came from the moments when you chose to stop rushing, when you chose to see someone everyone else ignored, when you chose to sign hello to a stranger and discovered you were signing hello to your future. This story reminds us that kindness isn't just a virtue, it's a language. And sometimes the smallest gesture of seeing someone, truly seeing them, can transform not just their life, but yours. If this story touched you, if it reminded you to slow down and notice the people the world rushes past, subscribe to Everbell's Stories for more journeys that prove love speaks every language. And remember, in a world that encourages us to keep walking, be the person who stops, who sees, who signs hello to someone everyone else ignores. You never know what beautiful future you might be building. Drop a comment sharing a time someone truly saw you or when you chose to see someone else. Let's celebrate the language of kindness together, one story at a time.